Yeah, welcome back to the Stuff or Whatever podcast. Your host, BQuanchi here. We have a very special podcast this week. But before we get started, I always like to say the best way to support me and channel is to like, comment, and subscribe. Do so on YouTube, follow on Twitter for updates of the fun tweets and stuff I find interesting to retweet, just somebody on the internet. And also on Twitch, where I stream gaming. And those game streams do get uploaded back to the YouTube channel as VODs. And also do like Let's Play stuff and other videos as well. I appreciate that and feedback recommendations because it'd be kind of fun to do more with this podcast because it's a a solo podcast with just someone screaming into the void. I use that term lightly because not really screaming, but I'm having fun with it most of the time, and it could kind of get me practice on talking on the microphone and all that, and get some ideas out. And sometimes, like this, I always say that this is a kind of a hobby, but it'd be kind of nice if it catch on a little bit. It's funny because some recent stress in my life. Yesterday, my laptop was doing this thing where the fan was getting really loud, and then when I restarted, it had this error message like it would shut down in 15 seconds and hit continue. But it seems better now. It's just to the point that if it does that, I can't record anything. Like sometimes even the fan by itself gets picked up a little bit, which I get a little iffy about. But a lot of times, like it's the game audio and stuff like that kind of covers it up. But I might be due for some equipment. I do have an HP Omen, if anyone's curious. Been pretty reliable, although there was a time that the battery swelled up, and I had to remove it. It's one of those like laptops like. I think I've even told this story before, but it's built into the laptop, like right underneath the keyboard. So I removed it, but haven't replaced it. So I probably won't. Probably by then it's better to just invest in a new laptop or computer. But basically, my laptop doesn't work unless it's plugged in, which has worked great ever since. I think it's been over a year since I had that issue, but. Besides that, it's been pretty reliable of a computer. The other life stuff that's been going on is that I got a new tattoo. I got Bowser from Super Mario. I'm really happy about that. It was kind of an impulse, but kind of a thing I wanted to get for a while. I did get another tattoo this year. Not that I'm really covered in ink, but just kind of like the fun stuff that I enjoy or just like to have. But probably won't do anything more crazy beyond that. But I have a couple. I posted my Instagram. I have to throw one on Twitter as well. So the first thing I want to talk about this podcast is Pride Month and all that. So it's my time of year and all that, but I always have somewhat mixed feelings because there's always that criticism that when companies like celebrate Pride, it's more like selling products or like, hey, acknowledging our audience for this month of year and then not for the rest of the year. Or sometimes I think a lot of times it's consistent, but it always reminds me of that one meme. There's a couple of them, but I know like the Mr. Krabs one from SpongeBob. It's like, what motivated you to celebrate Pride Month? And I go, money. So I did not. Also, I think there's a lot of honest gestures too. I think if they mention more about like charity and stuff like that too, versus like a lot of it's like buzzwords or posts and stuff like that, saying, "Oh, we acknowledge you, we respect you," or whatever. We celebrate you and all that. And it also kind of makes you think about like the quote unquote wokeness of companies. You see some of the people on the other end of the spectrum like getting really upset and butthurt or whatever when it comes to companies being quote unquote woke, whether they it's LGBT or like race stuff too. It can get like a great area to talk about. So I can mostly talk about my personal experience and stuff like that because I think I mentioned before because not like newest news, but when Bud Light did a little sponsorship with a trans influencer or something like that on Instagram, people like boycotting Bud Light and it's woke and all that. And it's funny because I heard on the radio like there was a recent NASCAR event and like they are still sponsored by Bud Light, and all the NASCAR people are drinking Bud Light. I think that's not to make so blunt correlations, but I think a lot of the NASCAR lovers may not be fans of Bud Light supporting trans, but they still drink Bud Light. It's like rinse and repeat. Like they get upset, then they forget about it, and maybe it just is. It's a very small group of people, but they're just so vocal. And I see this crap on Twitter all the time, like whether it's trans or LGBT or whatever. Like nothing new to, but kind of recent. But like Mr. Beast and all that. Is it Chris? I'm so bad with the name, but it's like, yeah, it's like people like, oh, you're grooming kids and blah blah blah, I think the thing that sucks is that there's all this laws and legislations actively being passed anti-LGBT, especially anti-trans and stuff like that. And yeah, it's like on this guy's like, oh, we got to protect our children, we got to protect them from being groomed. But then, hey, I think I'm not sure all the statistics, but I feel like not really much of like drag queens or transgender, because you always see headlines like cisgender male coach, female student, or cisgender female teacher, young male student, and then priests and pastors and Catholics and all that. And it's like, no, go after the real predators and all that. Like I don't know. It feels like kind of like a red herring or something like that, because people said like, hey, this is like to distract people while they pass other shit. And I'm not too like, I don't know how in the political spectrum, but I don't know. I'm just calling bullshit as I see it, and I'm not sure if it's. I don't know. It feels like this year it's been more of a shit show when it comes to online opinions regarding like LGBT, especially trans and drag and all that. So we'll see how the rest of this month plays out. But going back to like how people will always like say boycott this company, boycott that company, and that must be exhausting, because here's a little secret: every major company supports LGBT in some way. Some are more vocal, some are not as vocal, or very selective on how to convey that. Like, oh, this is Pride Month, this is when we can like look good for the gays, and then like take it back for the rest of the year. It's like, if you boycott everything, well, guess what? You can't use Google, you can't use Apple products. Even Tesla had pride shirts a few years ago. I saw a post. I'm not sure if that's still going. But like, oh, Tesla's woke, so you can't buy Tesla. And the same CEO is for Twitter. So I guess Twitter in relations is woke, so don't use Twitter. Don't buy stuff on Amazon. When I was in Walmart the other day, it had Juneteenth shirts, so they're woke, so you can't shop at Walmart. You can't shop at Target. You can't shop here and here. You can't buy games from Nintendo. You can't watch Disney movies and all that. So it's like, if you boycott everyone just for being upset for nothing that even impacts you, like this doesn't mean anything to those not in a group, in a sense. Like when it comes to like gay marriage and rights, or trans rights and transgender care and all that, it's like, this doesn't affect you. Like, just because it's something like challenging your traditional ways of thinking gives you the right to be an asshole to everyone, or just having that feel like, hey, if I have a child and they turn out gay or turns out trans and I'm failing, which you're not, that's not a failure whatsoever. But people just have these, I don't know if this is like passed on from generation, from being very bigoted and all that. But yeah, I just think this whole idea of like getting mad at companies for being quote unquote woke, when pretty much these people just want to exist. Like trans just want to exist, live their lives, be treated fairly, and all that. And it even gets crazy, like if you see here some of the headlines, because I'm not sure the statistics. Again, I don't like research everything diligently when it comes to like hate crimes, like for certain groups like races and gender. It feels like transgender, you hear a lot of like hate crimes, even murders or homicides and all that. But I also see headlines like cisgender women being hassled, even attacked, and the thinking that they were transgender, like someone's mistaking a woman, a cisgender woman, as a transgender woman, like in the bathrooms and stuff like that, or all that. So it almost turns into this crazy witch hunt too. Like, we gotta get all the transgender women, but then you not always be a woman. Like, I don't know. It's this really stupid at the end of the day, and I wish it really wasn't a thing. But racism is still a thing. Like, we were seeing this funny memes like, oh, people like those diners that remind them of the 60s or 50s or whatever. Like, don't worry, we still have milkshakes and racism. That still exists. And Nazis are making a comeback too, which I never get as well. But yeah, the only thing I can really think that would really combat like homophobia, transphobia, is if like social media really cracked down on it. because I see a lot of posts, like sometimes you can do something rabbit hole, like if you see something around transgender person, even like a representative in a Congress and stuff like that in the U.S., and you see like these bigoted posts, and if they had like a zero tolerance or more crackdown on that for terms of service, like bullying and stuff like that, I think that would go for long run. But even like suspending people, but they're not going to do that. Like especially Elon Musk, like. Oh, he's always wishy-washy, and I have my opinions with Elon Musk. I'll get into a little bit more and that a little bit later, but yeah, to really crack down, I think that because and I know like with the social media platforms like Twitter, like hey, it's their company, they can run it how they want and all that, but you get this argument like hey, it's a major platform for people to be heard, so you get the opinion about free speech and then like hate speech and all that. Because someone said something like transphobic, and maybe they get some people to disagree, argue back, some more tweets agreeing with them, confirming their ideas, and no really repercussions. And like, oh, I can say these hateful things, and it's okay because I'm not being punished for it. Like some people getting mad, but some people getting happy, and all that. So it's really divisive, but it's really cracked down. That I think that would make a huge world of difference, but. Even like with racism and other stuff, like unless it's really like derogatory or using a lot of like strong offensive language, then nothing really happens. And if they do, sometimes a lot of times it's like a slap on the wrist. And it's funny, like some of the right people get more butthurt when they're getting called out and all that. Because I remember, I think it's Adam Illis. I'm misremembering his last name, but I know he did a lot of webcomics for BuzzFeed. And also a lot of independent stuff too, but he had like the webcomic kind of poking fun of the MAGA people, like who wears the Make America Great Again hats and stuff like that. And he did a webcomic, and then again, I think Twitter, I think even like TikTok, got taken down, saying there's like bullying or stuff like that. So you like read edits, so it said like poo poo pee pee. There's some really funny ones too, like it kind of like changes based on the panel and all that. But like people just like poking fun at these people who are like, oh, everyone's snowflakes, like blah 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 blah, angry, and then like, oh, you make fun of us? No, I'm gonna report that and take it down. No, making fun of my red hat. Oh. I don't know how annoying that sound, but probably just as annoying as they sound. So it's like kind of weird to see these so many different sides of like people being like, rah, get angry. They gender swapped, they race swapped this character. They made a positive post about LGBT, banned, and like, oh, I'm getting criticized, and take that post down. Like free speech, I can say this. Don't make fun of me. That's not nice. But yeah, that's just modern age for you. But yeah, just kind of like my 2.5 cents when it comes to people getting butthurt with like companies being quote unquote woke, which I don't know that term. I don't know if it's seen as a positive or negative term. Sometimes I feel like it's trying to be dismissive, like, oh, you're being woke, trying to dismiss. Like, no, we're just trying to be decent people. We're trying to be respectful, celebrate diversity and all that. But yeah, I think that a lot of times I think, what was it? It was funny. Like, I haven't even heard it, but I saw. You know, like sometimes I browse through Twitter. I don't have the volume on videos. I turn it on, but I guess it was like a rap in a Target store against how they had of Pride. I think I did Pride wear like Pride items and stuff like that, and other posts like a good amount of posts like how cringy it is. Like this anti woke music rapping is like horrible. And they do it at Target, like he was like, this makes me just want to shop at Target. And then, like when you see the original posts, like. I don't know, it still kind of makes like some people say, oh, this is really great, this slaps and all that, but like, this still really cringe. So I don't know, if you want to go down a cringy rabbit hole, like look for like anti-woke music videos, like against companies that have pride products or whatever. But I think in the day, it just makes you look like an asshole if you're like, hey, no, it's okay to be gay, and then it's like, no, that's wrong. And I would say fuck off. That's the main thing. So next thing I want to talk about on this podcast is this account on Twitter. It's a quote-unquote parody account. I forget her full name. I know she's always abbreviated AOC. One of the representatives. I think one of the more like visible in terms of their like social media presence and especially with current issues. So, but this is parody account of AOC, like AOC Press, and it's getting a lot of traction because people are like believing it. And I think what really sparked the fire is they said like the parody account said they had a crush on Elon Musk, and then he like replied back to it. I think that's why it got so visible because he even looked it up on Twitter, and this account had joined Twitter in 2019, so it's been on the platform about a couple years. And then like people like Mr. Beast or other people like convinced that this like for a second they had to like do double takes because with the parody it's not as obvious. I would say in my opinion, but other people share that opinion as well because I have like the same profile picture, and it's kind of long and drawn out. So they have the word parody, but at the very end that gets cut off. So unless you actually take the time to go through the profile page, you may not know it's a parody. And this is like some wacky stuff, but I don't know. I think the thing is, it's kind of believable. And even find like I mentioned, like Elon Musk kind of replied back. So I think even Elon Musk was even tricked because I looked through his reply tweets and like they're gone. So I wonder if he just got embarrassed and like, oh, that wasn't really AOC, and then he like deleted it, his tweets and all that. It's really cringy. It almost feels like he's simping for AOC, and then realize he got duped by a parody account. I know like AOC's official account mentioned it, so I'm not sure what's going to happen just because it's so visible. It's tricking a lot of people. But again, if you try and do parody and people are convinced that you're the real thing, then that's not parody. That's impersonation. And I know there was like a lot of like buzz about that in the early days of Elon Musk. I'd say early, but it probably wasn't that long ago. But Elon Musk taking over as CEO, and there was that huge crackdown on Elon Musk parody accounts because I think that's when Twitter Blue was really being pushed. Because I've heard from sources that it's been around a little bit prior to Elon Musk owning Twitter, being CEO. But like all accounts, like H2H3 got suspended, and other accounts got suspended for doing the Elon Musk parody accounts, and they were like quoting like, "Hey, impersonation," and all that. So with Elon Musk being making such a fuss, like why doesn't he take down this AOC parody account, especially if it's actually fooling people? So it kind of feels like hypocritical. Maybe he's just a sensitive little baby and all that. So it is hard to. I feel like I lost respect for Elon Musk even more. Although my opinions don't even matter, so I can say what I want on this podcast. I mean, for the most part, good nature, but it's like, yeah, that is like one of the craziest thing that Elon Musk, because I honestly believe that he honestly believed that AOC had a crush on him and was confessing it on Twitter. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, it's I would say cringe is the best word for it. But also, again, feels kind of hypocritical how he made a huge whiny fuss about crackdown on Elon Musk parody accounts, but other people, I guess, can get parody accounts and trick people and all that. And I don't know, maybe I'm being a little harsh with my choice of words in terms of like, is it everyone being fooled or people like, oh yeah, this is obviously a joke. But I think a lot of people's not seeing that as obviously a joke, especially like, I think some things would help if like the profile pic was a little bit different. I'll put like sunglasses or like the deal with the sunglasses, something to make it obvious it's not the real AOC. Again, they had the handle since 2019, but they could have put like AOC parody and all that. But it is what it is. But it's like one of those frustrating things, especially when you see the hypocrisy with how Elon Musk handled parody accounts in the past, and this one like letting it fly and went rampant and all that. I don't know if it's like really as bad in terms of causing harm, but I know AOC, the real one, is really not happy about it because it can influence the reputation. Like if the parody account did something like really out of line and people saw that and believed that, but they didn't really do enough research or paid enough attention to like, oh, that's not the real person, and they think, oh, this person in Congress is saying these kind of things and all that. So it can definitely give people the wrong idea, but we'll see how that plays out. But besides, I haven't seen too many like parody accounts, and then sometimes I can be in my Twitter bubble, but besides like satirical ones and all that, like more obvious, I think like Hard Drive and The Onion do really good with, but even though that's more like satire, but yeah, to each their own, I guess. So next thing I want to talk about is the reboot of Clone High. I know I talked in the past about reboots, and Clone High just released and all that, and it seems pretty good. I kind of like it. I know I had a trial for Paramount Plus, and I kind of binged the original run of the first airing of it. But it's been a good couple months. 'Cause I know the talk for the reboot was like for a while, like it's almost been like a few years, and then all of a sudden, oh, we get some news, and it's coming out. So yeah, it seems pretty cool. I know some people think it's just as good or criticizing it. Because I know one of the big controversies that Gandhi isn't in it anymore, and that was like one of the reasons why the show kind of got canceled in the first place, because India was really upset, even though it's a clone of Gandhi, not actual Gandhi, but they weren't happy with his representation. And it seems like even people like view bombing it, because it's seen on what's called Rotten Tomatoes. Like critic scores are I think 100%, but like 50% for audience. And now it's just kind of skimming it and being upset that Gandhi's not in it. And I saw on Twitter like there was an interview with the creator saying that if there was more seasons, like maybe season 3 or 4, they would bring Gandhi back, because they definitely acknowledge him in the first episode, but he's pretty much still frozen. So it's kind of funny. Like I made a prediction that like his frozen body was gonna like fall over and break apart, which would have been pretty funny too. I think that would have been a funny way to deal with the issue of should we bring this character back or not, just because of the previous controversies. But I have to admit, like some people are saying, like it's kind of missing that comedic element that that character brought to the show in the original run, and some of the new clones they put in it. It feels like it's not quite filled. I still really like it. I feel like the Confucius clone is maybe the closest to like the comedic presence that Gandhi had. But yeah, I think it's still pretty good. It's still 4 episodes so far in the new season, but we'll see how that plays out. Because I remember like the original run, it felt like it had a lot of focus on being a parody of like teenage dramas, like high school dramas and stuff like that, like Dawson Creek or whatever. It's actually I borrowed a little bit from the show, because they have a recurring bit like at the beginning, or like when they do like the recap, they always say like previously on a very special, or on a very special. Like they use that a lot to describe the episode, but they do that for every episode. So I kind of been using that a lot in terms of my streams and podcasts and all that. But yeah, I think they introduced a good amount of character. I feel like they might focus a little bit more on the main premise of the show, like these clones are supposed to be used to take over the world. So I feel like they shied away from that the original first season, but the reboot they kind of like putting more focus on that. And that was kind of like my criticism too, is that I kind of wish they would acknowledge them being more clones of historical figures and all that. And they did, like even with the first season, like I think like Abraham Lincoln talked to an animatronic form of himself at an amusement park and all that. So but it feels like it's more like high school student being high school students, and it can be a little bit topical too. Yeah, but I think that's also one of the strengths. The thing is, it does a so good job at being a parody of like those teenage high school shows, and now it's like a different age, 20 years later, and I also like the part, like even though the clones of historical figures do not like act like them, but then again that makes sense because they are growing up in different times in different environments. So it's kind of like having that freedom, like hey, especially with some of the character designs in the reboot, like Harriet Tubman and Confucius, probably a lot different than what you expect from the other characters and historical figures. So I feel like they take a lot of creative liberties, which is kind of cool. They're pretty cool to see. One thing I also saw that was pointed out online is that they mentioned that Harriet Tubman's clone was actually in the first run. You can see like it was this kind of small like background character, like there's a line, and then you even see her frozen next to Abe, and then they have. And the new one looks really different, especially with the hairstyle and all that, especially being acknowledged that it's a new clone. So I'm wondering if that was just like a production error, and then realized, hey, we cloned this physical figure in the first run. And so see, I wonder if they're going to catch that. That would be kind of funny episodes, because it's still early in the season. But if they like realize, oh, we cloned historical figures more than once, and how's that going to play out in terms of the clones? But we'll see. I like it, but something about it makes it feel like it doesn't quite have the punch as the original one. But one of the characters that I like is the clone of Christopher Columbus, which he goes by Topher, because it's like a big uh, part of his character is that being aware of cancel culture, especially this day and age, and it's kind of funny. Sometimes it can be really like cringy to lean on topical humor, but I think it's done really well just because it really impacts the character and all that. So it's like, oh, you can't, even though there was that bit like talking with Abe, like you can't say that word anymore, you can't talk like that, and all that. So I think it was episode 2 that it kind of like pointed. Maybe the first one, I forget already because I've been watching them back to back. I think that's a good way to kind of like poke fun of current trends or issues and stuff like that. So I like that new character. It is pretty good. So we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. But I feel like they're doing more of an overall narrative in terms of like the organization trying to use the clones for taking over the world. So we'll see how the season plays out. But it sounds like from the creator, like I said, like they want to do more seasons and possibly bring Gandhi back. So we'll see. Hopefully it gets the support is. At least it's better than the Velma show. Although I saw one reviews like saying it's worse than Velma, which are like, eh. But I think a lot of people are just butthurt about the whole Gandhi thing, like being a fan, but oh well. The last thing I want to talk about on this podcast is I'm kind of a fan of this channel. It's been around for a while, and sometimes I feel awkward talking about it because like, oh, I've ever heard of this one channel, but they're a lot bigger. But I've been diving into the Defunctland channel, and it does really good style with a lot of like documentaries about a lot of it's like Disney, would be like theme park rides, or like it did a lot of episodes about Jim Henson series like the Bear in a Big Blue House and the Muppets and Muppet Babies and all that. So it's really interesting to see because I feel like it's a lot of stuff that's nostalgic for me as well. But I feel like it's really well done and researched. But some stuff I don't care too much. Like they talked about like a recent one about the Wiggles had like a dark ride. There was a few episodes about that too, like amusement park rides, which is kind of like you're on a track and all that. But also talk about like technology with it too. So it's really interesting to see. I think it's one of the bigger episodes for the channel is when they're talking about the Fast Pass for Disneyland. And what I thought was really good was talking about the Disney Channel theme, like the 4 notes. And it's funny because I think people like saying that's like the simplest premise you can think of for a video, but it's like over an hour, I think hour and a half, but it is really well done, especially the last 30 minutes of it. You talk about like who did it, and it kind of, I don't know, I don't want to like spoil it too much, but it is definitely worth watching. But really cool stuff too. Like they talk about how like Jim Henson did shows like Fraggle Rock and all that because he really wanted to do the Dark Crystal, but he had to do like these shows to, I guess, get the funds, or I forget exactly how that played out, but I think that's why a lot of these shows from Jim Henson Productions got put out because he had these other passion projects in terms of the Dark Crystal movie. Also the Labyrinth. I know those are their puppets, but I think I forget which video because again I was like binging them back to back. So, but yeah, just worth checking out, and it's again it's really well done. Like some things I don't care too much about. Mixed fascinating. Like there was even funny one like they had like a sandwich. It's like I didn't realize that. I think just because Disneyland has been around so long, like you forget. Oh, never went to that attraction because it was gone by the time I went to Disneyland as a kid. But they're talking about like this hand sandwich, which is like a bread cone with filling in it, and that's kind of interesting. But I guess it didn't sell as well. But and also like especially with Disney's Walt Disney's like passion products like the Epcot Center, where you kind of want to make it like a community that's, I guess, like the community of the future and all that. I ain't even seen like parodies of that in cartoons. I think Venture Bros touched on that a lot in terms of like Walt Disney and his passion projects like the Epcot Center, probably like Simpsons or whatever as well. But I definitely recommend Defunctland, even though maybe even heard of it or seen its thumbnails. Because I remember I saw the thumbnail for the Disney Channel theme for a good while, then eventually click on it, and yeah, definitely worth the watch. Very well done. So I don't know, maybe I have to see more documentaries. Do you have any good recommendations for channels like that? I do also watch like a lot of cartoon commentaries and stuff like that. Like a good one that was also pretty recent was, I think I mentioned this channel that I follow as well, Saber Spark, but he did a really good one about the Balto movies, the trilogy, but also talked a lot about the original story with the sled dogs and Balto. And I know Disney Plus did a movie based off the other dog, who probably deserves more credit for the run. It's like a medicine. Like you can watch a movie, probably like just giving you the cheapest cliff notes, but it just feels like with the original story of how that like Balto wasn't really the main hero. He just happened to be the one they want to slap on the headlines at the time. But yeah, this is really good. I think it has Willem Dafoe in the movie. I forget, but it's about the other dog too. But I recommend if you want to hear more about it, if you like some of those older animations, like I like Super Sparks content as well. Like I did one about like what ruined this and what ruined that, and he talked about the Veggie Tales, which I know a little bit, maybe saw a tiny bit as a kid, nothing I care about, but it's very interesting as well. Like even this like show I never seen or not care too much about, but it sounds like he also wants to do more bigger stuff too. So be on the lookout. Not that I'm not really one to really platform somebody or like boost somebody up in terms of like, hey, get a little bump from the BQuanchi channel. But anyways, I think that's a good spot to wrap up this podcast. And the best way to support me on the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe. It would help out, again, more of a hobby, but if things more become of it, that'd be cool, because I would really like to be a platform or kind of like, especially with like indie games. I've been doing that in my more Let's Play. I do organize playlists as well on the channel, but like the BQuanchi gameplay playlist, a lot of demos from indie games. I've been throwing. This is going to be some more retro stuff coming up in the pipeline. It's funny that I'm kind of playing new things out. So I have like a backlog in a sense for some things. I'm just going to do more uploads of that. Like I do it once a week, but I don't want to get too burned out, especially like full-time job, hobby, and all that. But just putting it out there. But anyways, that will do it for today. So you all take care and have a good rest of your day. Bye.